Welcome to Vigyalayaa. Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about our immune system. So first we will talk about innate immunity and then we will move on to talk about adaptive immunity. And finally, we will see an overview of how our immune system acts or responds to a particular foreign invader. So let's get into the video. Whenever a foreign body tries to enter our system, then it has to face our immune system. And our immune system is very powerful and is multi-layered, which means that there are several layers at which our body handles a foreign intruders. Even our skin acts as a barrier against a foreign body. Also, our nasal secretions, earwax, tears, or saliva, or even our sweat, all these things have antimicrobial properties and they do not allow microbes to grow inside or on our body. But our immune system is actually more than just skin deep. So let us have a look at our immune system. We have basically two types of immunity. Innate immunity is present in our body since birth, and that is why whenever a new pathogen enters our system, then it forms the first line of defense by producing rapid response. Whereas acquired immunity takes time to show response because it is not present since our birth. It is developed, it is acquired after birth through exposure to antigens or in a passive way where adaptive immune cells are inserted in our body, and the development of this immune response takes as long as few days to even weeks. But innate immunity, it produces response in just a few hours. But the problem with innate immunity is that it is non-specific, which means that it produces the same response for all kinds of pathogens, be it a virus or a bacteria. But adaptive immunity is very specific. Not only can it recognize the various foreign bodies, but it also produces highly specialized response for each kind of foreign body. And it also has self-tolerance, which means that it can distinguish between the cells of our own system and the foreign cells and produce immune response only for the foreign cells. When our immune cells lose the property of self-tolerance, then autoimmune diseases occur. These are the diseases where our own immune cells start destroying our own body cells. Another very interesting property of adaptive immunity is that it develops immunological memory, which means that when a particular pathogen enters our body, then our body develops certain specialized cells in order to encounter this particular pathogen. But the next time the same pathogen comes in, then our body behaves instantly in a learned way because it has already developed an immunological memory. But this kind of development of memory is absent in innate immunity. Also, innate immunity is found in vertebrates as well as in invertebrates. But adaptive immunity or the very specific immunity is present only and only in jawed vertebrates like humans or monkeys or dogs, cows and cats. Now let us talk about the differences in innate immunity. And first we have chemical mediators. An important chemical mediator is cytokines. In our immune system, cytokines are released when a group of cells identifies a particular foreign body and they want to transfer this information to other group of cells. In that case, cytokines are released and they act as the intercellular mediators. Now, our next defense is inflammatory barriers. You might have noticed inflammation, redness, swelling, or increased temperature at the area of an infection. All these are due to changes in the local blood vessels. Our body tries to increase the flow of blood at the area of infection. And in order to do so, they increase the diameter of our blood vessels, as a result of which the flow of blood increases. And because of this, the kinetic energy also increases. So heat is generated in turn. This also results in increased redness in the area of infection. Also, our blood vessels become more permeable to fluids and protein. This results in accumulation of blood proteins, which help in defense mechanism, and this causes the swelling. So now we know the reason behind redness, inflammation, swelling, and heat generation or increased temperature at the area of infection. Now a third defense mechanism is cellular defenses. This is the most important of innate immunity, the cellular defenses, which helps defend our body against foreign invaders. Such cells are macrophages, neutrophils, monocytes, granulocytes, natural killer cells, and a few others. Now let us talk about the most important ones only. So let's go. Whenever a foreign body enters our body, then the first cell of our immune system that it faces are the macrophages. Yes, we have talked about this in our previous video as well. Macrophages are these huge cells which can engulf the entire foreign body and digest them, not completely but partially, until very small remains of the foreign body remains. Now this macrophage will present these foreign bodies, these remains of the foreign bodies on its surface in order to showcase other cells that yes, there is a foreign body inside our body and these are the remains, and other cells can actually recognize these remains and accordingly prepare for them. This process, where the macrophage presents the remains of the foreign body on its surface, is known as antigen presentation. Now it's time to talk about the most valuable players of adaptive immunity. And the first player is our T cells. These T cells originate in our bone marrow and they mature, and their expression of antigen receptors take place in thymus. Next, we have two types of T cells. Number one, helper T cells. The helper T cells release cytokines. Remember, cytokines are chemical mediators, intercellular mediators. They transfer information from one cell to another group of cells, right? So helper T cells release these chemical mediators or cytokines to affect other cells. For example, they activate macrophages to destroy the intracellular pathogens that might be present inside our body or inside the cell. Also, helper T cells help the B cells to produce antibodies. And the second type of T cells that we have are killer T cells. They directly take part in the battle against foreign invaders and help to kill. The next most valuable player of adaptive immunity are B cells. B cells originate and they mature, as well as expression of their antigenic receptors take place in bone marrow only. These B cells are very hard-working cells. Upon an exposure to antigens, they differentiate into plasma cells and memory cells. These plasma cells work intensively and they produce thousands or maybe millions of antibodies. But the memory cells, they are the most important. They store immunological memory of the antigen so that whenever the antigen comes in next time, then our body can react to it or produce response against it instantly in a very learned and a very specific way, so that the antigen is gone before we even know it. So now it's time for a quick overview of how our immune system works. Here the red cells denote the foreign bodies and the blue and the black cells, they denote the cells of our immune system. So inside our body, the cells of our immune system are constantly looking for foreign bodies, and when they find any, they all get on high alert. And next, we already know what follows. Whenever a foreign body is detected inside our body, then the first cell it encounters are the huge macrophages which engulf them and digest them until small remains of it are left, which are presented on the surface of our macrophage, and this process is known as antigen presentation. We have talked about this previously, that these are known as antigens because they have the ability to elicit the production of antibodies. So this process is known as antigen presentation. Now once our macrophage is presenting the antigens, it encounters several other cells like the dendritic cells. As soon as the macrophage and the dendritic cell interact with each other, the dendritic cell recognizes or it carries parts of this antigen with itself, and it then moves to the lymph node. And inside the lymph node, our dendritic cell will encounter several T cells. These T cells are one of the most important players of our adaptive immune system. Now the dendritic cell mediates the information it has received from the antigen carrying macrophage to the specific T cells. As a result, a particular T cell will get activated. The activated T cell will then talk to our B cells. This is the second most important player of our adaptive immune system. And this B cell will work very hard in order to produce several millions of antibodies. These antibodies will be highly specific to the antigens that are present on the surface of our foreign body. Now these antibodies will then go to the site of infection and will interact with our antigens or the foreign body, and it will bind to the antigens present on the surface of our foreign body or the pathogen, and thus will neutralize it. So this is the overview of how our immune system acts. Now here we should remember a very important thing, and that is that after the battle is over, most of the cells die, but a few cells do remain, and those are the memory cells. The memory cells hold the memory of the pathogen years after the infection, and they form the immunologic memory, so that next time the virus or the pathogen or whatever it is enters our body can react or respond instantly to it and neutralize it even before we know it. So that's all for this video. Thank you.